In this video, I'm going to show you how we can create pages and use those pages to populate content within one window. This enables you to create different pages, as it were, that you can load into the single window that you're using. And now, in order to do this, the first thing we need to do is to create a container to hold the pages, and that's a frame. So declare a frame, and here's one. The most important thing here is to give it a name. So again, you can either name it by putting the code in. I'm calling this main, or you can simply type it in the properties panel. Now that we have our frame, we need to create the pages that we're going to populate with content. The way to do this is right-click on the name of your project in the Solution Explorer, navigate to Add, and Page. Now, you can completely remove whatever's in here and type what you want, but in fact, page 1 looks quite nice. I'm going to click Add. I'll have page 1 create for me here, and in fact, I'm just going to create the second page now. Auto naming for the win. Okay, so we have page 1 and page 2, the XAML files, and they have their corresponding code behind. The main window, of course, has that as well. And what we're going to do now is I'm just going to populate the content, or make them different so that we can see that it's working. The way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to place on each page, so we're on page 1 at the moment, I'm going to create a text block, and I'm going to give it content. Let's keep it nice and simple. Without making it broken. And the same thing on page 2. Double click to load. And call this page 2. In actual fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place those in the center. So change the horizontal alignment and vertical alignment to center. And I'm going to increase the font size to 24. Right now I've done that, I'm just going to select the sections for the formatting, pop back over to page 1. And add that in. Okay, so we've now got the two pages, page 1 and page 2, which are visually different. I'm going to come back to the main window. So we have two pages that we're going to load in to a frame container on this page. Now, at the moment, the frame container is taking up the whole of the window. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a margin just to bring it down from the top. So 0 from the left, 35 from the top, 0 from right, 0 from bottom. So we've now got a slight gap just above it. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to put a couple of buttons. So I'm going to create a stack panel in order to hold them. And place the two buttons in there. Self-close those. Button content equals page 1, and second button content page 2. Now, as you can see, the stack panel is default to vertical orientation, so we're just going to override that behavior and change it to horizontal. And the other thing is it's taking up the entire page because the stack panel and the frame are expanding to the full size of the grid. So I'm just going to give it a height property of the 35. And I'm also going to tell it to have horizontal alignment and vertical alignment top and stretch. So we now have the container element on the top of the page in the first 35 pixels, and the remainder of the page is taken up by the content frame that's going to hold the pages that we load into it. The other thing I'm going to do is just change these buttons and make them a little bit more presentable. So I'm going to set a minimum width on these to be 100, and I'm also going to add a margin to the one on the right, just so that it spaces it. So let's have a margin left of 10 pixels and 0 everywhere else. And so we've got a nice little space in between them now. So just to recap, we've got 2 buttons, button 1, button 2, that will link us to page 1 and page 2, and we've got the content frame called main. Now, I'm going to add event handlers to each of these buttons on the click event. So select them, navigate to the event handlers, and in click, I'm going to put button click P1. So it's created in the code behind the button click for me, and I'm just going to load into the main element. I'm going to access with dot notation the content property, and I'm going to assign a new page 1 and call the constructor. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this and paste it in for the second button, and I'm going to rename this button 2 and create a new page 2. So they're going to do exactly the same thing, only button click on P1 is going to create a new instance of page 1 and assign it to the content of main, which is the name of the frame. And button click P2 is going to create a new instance of page 2, and it's going to assign it to the content of main. So if we now save that and navigate back to the XAML, I'm just going to put in the click event on the second button, and I'm going to build the application. Okay, so here we have the program, and we've got the empty frame here, and the page 1 and page 2 buttons. Clicking page 1 loads page 1 and assigns it to the content, and same with page 2. And you'll notice we've now got a rather ugly navigation button. Now, this enables us to, or enables the user to navigate back and forth, but you may not want that. So what I'm going to do now is just access the method in here, so the property of the frame to tell it to hide that. And the simplest way to remember this is that it's a navigation tool. So just think navigation and start typing navigation, and you'll see navigation UI visibility. Select that property and set it to hidden. I'm now going to rebuild the app. And as you can see, I'm clicking on the pages now, and we don't have the navigation at all.